fire. The European Union is calling an emergency meeting after US President Donald Trump threatened sweeping tariffs on some of America's closest allies. The EU ambassadors from all 27 member states will gather in Brussels later today as concerns grow over a trade row now tied to the US president's push for Greenland. Mr. Trump has threatened to impose an additional 10% tariff from 1st February on all goods entering the US from Denmark, Norway, Sweden, France, Germany, the UK, the Netherlands, and Finland. He warned the levy would jump to 25% on 1st June unless a deal is reached. The condition? Europe allowing the US to buy Greenland. Announcement.
January 18, 2026 Trump administration news, EU ambassadors emergency meeting over Greenland. Alright folks, buckle up because Donald Trump just turned international diplomacy into the world's most expensive game of Monopoly, and he's threatening to flip the board unless Europe hands over Greenland. Yes, you heard that right. Greenland. The massive ice-covered island that nobody's thought about since primary school geography class is now at the center of what might be the wildest geopolitical standoff of 2026. And the Europeans? They're absolutely losing their minds. Quick favor, if you're loving this, hit that subscribe button and smash the notification bell to keep getting the latest updates on Australian politics and global chaos. Cheers if you did. Now back to the show. So let's set the scene. It's January 18, 2026, and somewhere in Brussels, European Union ambassadors are having what can only be described as a proper meltdown. They've called an emergency meeting, the kind you usually reserve for actual crises like wars or economic collapses, not because some former reality TV star turned president has decided he wants to buy the world's largest island like it's a used car on Gumtree. But here we are, living in the timeline where Trump's second administration has decided that territorial expansion is back in fashion, and Denmark is about to become America's least favorite NATO ally. Now, if you're sitting there thinking this sounds absolutely bonkers,
Came as thousands of Greenlanders wrapped up protests outside the U.S. consulate in capital Nuuk. Demonstrators rejected any sale of the autonomous Danish territory, saying its future should be decided locally. Several European countries have since sent small troop contingents to Greenland, describing the deployments as Arctic security training. Denmark's foreign minister is visiting Norway, the UK, and Sweden to discuss NATO's Arctic strategy. European leaders are striking a tougher tone to the latest tariff threats. Some warn the tariffs risk a dangerous downward spiral. Others have called them unacceptable and even amounting to blackmail. France's agriculture minister says Washington also has a lot to lose, warning U.S. farmers and industries would suffer too.
Congratulations, you're still sane. But this is genuinely happening. President Trump, fresh off his inauguration just 2 days ago on January 20th, has wasted absolutely zero time getting back to his greatest hits. And apparently, buying Greenland has been sitting on his bucket list since his first term when everyone laughed it off as just another Tuesday in Trump world. Well, nobody's laughing now because he's backed up this request with the diplomatic equivalent of a sledgehammer, tariffs. That's right, Trump has threatened to slap tariffs on 8 European nations unless they come to the table and negotiate America's purchase of Greenland. 8 countries. We're talking about threatening some of America's oldest allies with economic punishment because they won't sell him a giant frozen island that isn't even theirs to sell. It's like demanding your mate sell you his neighbor's house and threatening to key his car when he explains that's not how property ownership works. The sheer audacity is almost impressive. But let's talk about what's actually at stake here because beneath all this madness, there's actual geopolitical strategy happening. Greenland isn't just a massive chunk of ice where polar bears hang out. It's sitting on enormous mineral deposits, rare earth elements that are crucial for modern technology, and it occupies one of the most strategically important positions in the Arctic. As climate change opens up new shipping routes and makes previously inaccessible resources available, Greenland has become incredibly valuable. So while Trump's methods might sound like he's negotiating a real estate deal on Fifth Avenue, there's genuine strategic thinking buried underneath all that bluster. Now here's where it gets even more interesting. Greenland is technically part of the Kingdom of Denmark, but it's also an autonomous territory with its own government. So Denmark can't just sell it even if they wanted to, which they absolutely don't. The Danish government has already made it crystal clear that Greenland is not for sale, not now, not ever. Denmark's prime minister has essentially told Trump to take a long walk off a short pier, in the most diplomatic language possible. But Trump, being Trump, has interpreted absolutely not as let's negotiate, and now he's threatening Denmark's European mates with economic warfare to force the issue. The European Union is understandably furious. These emergency meetings don't happen every day, and when they do, it's serious business. The 8 nations Trump has specifically threatened are now scrambling to figure out how to respond to what is essentially diplomatic extortion from their supposed ally and protector. Can you imagine the conversations happening behind closed doors? So the Americans, who we've been allied with for 75 years, who we've supported